Before I get started with this video, I just want to say a huge thank you to all the members of the Kinetic Rugby League channel. Your support is greatly appreciated on a monthly basis. If you'd like to become a member, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and joining for as little as £1 a month. Well, that's it. Thanks again to all the members. Let's crack on with the video. Ladies and gentlemen, I've left a recap of last round's predictions up on the screen for you guys to check out, as well as the season recap. And what you will notice, 6 ticks, baby. For the first time this year, granted, it's not been the best year, but 6 out of 6. So now that the seal has been broken, we're going to start getting a roll, folks. Getting a nice little cinnamon roll. And as far as achievements go, I would say winning the Challenge Cup is there. 6 out of 6 in the predictions is probably there. But kicking things off this week, we have Hull FC taking on the Castleford Tigers. So both sides are on poor form at the moment. They've only won 2 in their last 5 Super League games. However, the 2 for Hull FC are 2 in a row, and the run that they were on before that was incredibly difficult. So take that into account as well. Hull FC, they also come into this with a lot more weapons in the forwards and in the backs, and rotational options from the bench as well. I don't think Cass have shown nearly enough evidence that they can typically compete with what Hull FC can produce. There is the odd performance once in a blue moon. I've talked about this plenty of times with Cass. Is it from nowhere? They'll produce a godlike performance. They'll just play way above the usual standards. But you can't really predict when that's going to happen. So on a typical basis, Hull FC, they've got the weapons, they've got the speed out wide, they've got the size through the middle, the quick play the balls, the offloads especially, that I don't think Cass can really restrict. Maybe in some periods throughout the game they can restrict those moments, but over the course of 80 minutes, I think Hull FC have way too much. Hull FC are also a lot bigger up front. A lot of players out wide. They've just got the speed. They can create line breaks. Defensively, Cass are a really poor team this year. Sometimes inside the red zone, Hull FC can be a little bit predictable, get into the habit of just trying to crash over because they've got such big guys. It's fine making meters and post-contact meters, but when you actually need to crash over and get the ball on the try line, it's a lot harder to do. So Cass, one thing that might work out for them is, yes, they might have to do a lot of defending on their goal line, but if Hull FC get into that habit of just trying to crash over, I think it works out well for Cass because they can put in those resilient efforts inside the red zone. So we'll see how that goes. But in terms of a more open, expansive game, Hull FC, they do like to kick long, with Aidan Caesar down the left-hand side on the last tackle, normally kicking from the 40 or halfway line, and they'll pin Cass into the corners. Cass are an easy team to pin back. They don't really have the size to get the post-contact meters. They don't really get many offloads, if I recall, based on stats and all. I looked at them the other day, but also spreading the ball. I think in recent weeks, I think Cass have made more of an attempt to spread the ball early in the count, inside their own half, to try and work the ball out. They've got the ball to Senior over on the left-hand side. Try to use his pace to get around defences. So there's more intent from Cass to have to work the ball out their own end. But they're still quite easy to pin back. And that's going to be a huge advantage for Hull FC when they get the ball back in great field position. If Cass have one of their miraculous defensive displays, a masterclass defensively, if you will, maybe Hull will get a little bit frustrated, but as I say, Hull FC, bigger forward pack, quicker out wide, greater ability to break the line, very strong defensively as well, very resilient, clear kicking game. They have a clear plan week to week, and Castleford on both sides of the ball just are not good enough in comparison to Hull FC. So with all that being said, I'm going to go with Hull FC 26, Castleford Tigers 12. Next up, we have the Challenge Cup winners, Hull Kingston Rovers, taking on the Catalans Dragons. So the usual noise after a Challenge Cup, and of course, Wigan kind of put this to bed a little bit last year, but the usual noise after a Challenge Cup win is that the winner tends to drop off for the next few weeks at least, or they just have a poor back end of the season. Now, let's say, for example, that is true, and that even, maybe it's just this week that KR don't put in the best performance after winning the Challenge Cup. There aren't many other teams that you'd want to be playing as a response to that. And given that Catalans, and I'm about to make a bold statement here, Catalans might be the most disappointing team I've ever seen. That doesn't mean worst, because technically Salford have been worse, but I'm not disappointed in Salford. You look at the squad that Catalans have, what they should be achieving this year. Yes, they got to a semi-final of the Challenge Cup, but they are massively underachieving. Now, I've not watched the sport for as long as a lot of you guys have. Some of you guys will be in your 50s, maybe 60s, maybe even 70s that watch these videos and will have seen some utter dog shit, but I've never been so disappointed in a team. And the fact that KR, even if they do go on a bit of a slump, they could just kick this off with a fairly easy opponent in Catalans. They look utterly clueless. So if you look at their results in the last three, they lost 40-0, 48-0 and 34-0. Way to go, guys. Now, Hull KR didn't play anywhere near their best at Wembley. Defensively, solid. Very, very solid display defensively. Just offensively, not great. Looked a little bit one-dimensional. They did like to get into their rhythm of kicking towards the corners like they do with Mikey Lewis. Granted, the weather wasn't great in some portions of the game as well, so that kind of took the expansive play out a little bit, and they focused more on just running through the middle. I think Warrington did a good job to counter them, so it wasn't the usual Hull KR dominance that we see on a regular basis, or maybe that people even expected against Warrington. I suppose including myself, possibly. So it wasn't their best attacking display. But defensively, you can't really fault them. And given that they're coming up against a Catalan side that looks utterly clueless in possession, I think Hull KR will be fine. There's a great chance that Catalans get a good old goose egg once again, 4 weeks in a row on their side. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they'll get points. But they could be in with another absolute battering. The biggest positives, I guess, for the Dragons are that they'll have fresher bodies. They do have big bodies. They'll have fresher bodies. And that the second is maybe Hull KR have taken their eye off this week a little bit with all the celebrations. Not saying that they're going to be unprofessional. Just saying maybe the prep is slightly different because they've celebrated. They've taken maybe a day off that they normally would have used for prep or for training. I don't know. It's a maybe. I'm not saying they have done it or they will do it. It's just a maybe. That might work in their favour. But the fresher bodies thing, I think, will sort of play into Catalan's hands a little bit, especially through the middle. There's a lot of work that the forwards for Hull KR have had to go through in the last few weeks. And the fact that Catalans, they do have big bodies that I think can put up a good challenge through the middle. I think Hull KR will probably be fine in that department. And maybe towards the back end of the game, it suits Catalans a bit more. Maybe that's where they find the points that I'm going to give them. But yeah, I think in terms of in possession, Hull KR, they'll be a lot cleaner this week, coming up against a defence that's, I think, not that resilient. There were periods, say, 2 months ago, something like that for Catalans, where defensively, offensively, they looked a little bit more clear. But defensively, Catalans, they don't look resilient enough. Hull KR are great in possession. And as I said before, the matchup for Hull KR's defence compared to Catalan's attack, I can't imagine they'll concede many points. I can't imagine they'll concede double-digit points, to be honest. So for prediction, I'm going to go with Hull Kingston Rovers 30, Catalans Dragons 6. Next up, we have the Huddersfield Giants taking on the Wigan Warriors. So this game will be played at the Flair Stadium in Dewsbury. So maybe the attendance will look decent this week. Now, Wigan are on hot form right now. They've won 8 games in a row. Fair play to them. Coming up against a team on a 3-game losing streak. Now, last time out for Huddersfield, they actually showed some really positive signs against Leigh. Still not a great defensive side, not a great offensive side, but I'm going to use this S word again. People are going to be sick and tired of it and so bored of it. But the thing with Huddersfield that we've seen since round 1 are sparks. You will just get, not a complete performance from Huddersfield, you will get little sparks here and there throughout the game that just give them a couple points or maybe just restrict the points of another team. But they are seemingly incapable of putting together 80-minute performances. The closest one was against Hull FC Magic Weekend. They did keep going in that game against Leigh. They didn't give up. Even when the game seemed completely out of reach, they really put Leigh on their heels. And I think over the last couple of weeks, one thing that has helped the Giants is that they're starting to get their key players back in, the big names, a little bit more consistency on a week-to-week basis with the spine as well, having their best players in there, and they're developing. Once they get that cohesion, hopefully there'll be a stronger defensive unit, and hopefully offensively they can start creating more opportunities. Flanagan has greater players around him, so does Gagai. Clune can lead the way. Lolohea can play a little bit more off the cuff as Clune's controlling things. Rush has played in the number 6 role a couple times. He looks quite lively as well. And then with the big names, the big guys, that they've got up front, they could start to lay a platform for the likes of Wolford. So there are positive signs for Huddersfield. There are reasons to, I don't know if get excited is the word, but reasons to be hopeful for the rest of the season. There are reasons, but they're against a Wigan side that is so clinical, that's the one, clinical offensively. The way that they execute in possession is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And I don't think the cohesion is there yet for Huddersfield to be able to shut out Wigan. Again, maybe in patches, sparks as I mentioned earlier, maybe in patches. We've seen a couple of times Huddersfield will shift across. They'll get bodies over. They'll put some of the Wigan players into touch. But defensively, through the middle, in possession, Wigan are the superior side. They've won 8 in a row. I don't see enough reasons to suggest that there's an upset for this one. I would still like to see some positives for Huddersfield, based on the reasons I mentioned with the big names coming back in, a bit more cohesion. But the way that Wigan, they just know how to slow down the ruck, stop teams from getting offloads as well to create those second phases. I think that's not really talked about too much, but it does seem like they restrict a lot of offloads. They slow down the ruck. They can get set defensively. They don't give you an inch of space behind the ruck as well from quick play the balls. They just suffocate teams. And I think Huddersfield will find it very difficult to work the ball out their own end, and Wigan will probably be okay. So I'm going to go with Huddersfield Giants 10, Wigan Warriors 32. Next up, we have Leeds Rhinos versus the Warrington Wolves. I'm going to take a second to yap on about Leeds, just briefly, because I do like to give credit where credit is due. Leeds are one of the most reliable sides in the competition right now. They look really professional in how they go about their business. Offensively, defensively, they look really professional. They look like they have an idea about what they want to do. And even when maybe they look a little bit disjointed, I think individually, players are stepping up in moments. When shit hits the fan, or they're in a high pressure situation, they look calm enough. Even when it does look erratic, they're making good things happen. Whether it be from Newman on the right edge when he cuts back inside, or same with Hanley over on the left, or whether it's Riley Lum finding a break down the edge, the left wing, or if it's Jake Connor engaging the line, a little grubber kick through, or stepping past somebody inside the red zone, whether it be Lockie Miller on the second phase, just players popping up left, right and centre, making things happen. I don't think people, one, are giving them enough praise and enough credit, and two, taking them seriously enough. I don't think people are taking Leeds Rhinos seriously enough this year. And when I say this, I mean this. I don't think Hull KR, obviously Hull KR, they don't want Wigan in the grand final, they'd probably get them. Wigan don't want Hull KR in the grand final, they'd probably get them. But it's not going to be that much easier if either of them got Leeds in the grand final. If Leeds get in the grand final, they could win it. Seriously. Leeds are a great side this year. But that's out of the way. One major advantage, and that's for 4 of the sides this week, is the week off. Bigger bodies, first of all. Much bigger bodies compared to Warrington. You've got Aledzki, you've got Gannon, McDonnell, Palacia, Holroyd, Jenkins. Probably missing, I'm sure I'm missing one. But compare that to the likes of Crowther, Yates, Philbin. It's not the same. It's not the same. So, fresher bodies and bigger bodies. Major advantage for Leeds. Now, Warrington put in a very solid defensive display at Wembley. Attacking-wise, a little bit of a disconnect. It's always difficult to try and outplay Hull KR's defence, but Warrington in possession didn't look that clinical or that threatening. Again, a lot of the same stuff, just moving the ball towards the edges, ball at the back to Dufty, easy reads. 3-on-3 every time, they've got it covered out wide. It looks the same every week. But Mark Sneed's kicking game clearly showed that even if there's a massive difference in the size of the pack or ability to spread the ball, he showed exactly how important a kicking game can be, how important a number 7 is. And I think it's kind of going to go the same sort of way. Leeds are the better attacking side, better defending side, bigger through the middle, better through the middle. It's going to be Mark Sneed's kicking game that kind of equalises everything. His game management, setting the tempo, turning the massive forwards of Leeds Rhinos around, getting Lockie Miller pinned back, Riley Lund pinned back, Ryan Hall pinned back. Even though his carries at the backfield have been great, actually. But getting the back 3 pinned back is going to be huge. Wearing out the forwards is going to be huge. But with that extra week off, it's going to be a tough one. Comparing Leeds' attack to Warrington's defence, I think Leeds are showing a lot of creativity offensively, and a lot of it's off the back of Connor and Miller. And I think whoever they've got available in the spine or out wide, I think there's too much creativity and too much pace compared to what Warrington's shown defensively all season. We've seen some games where Warrington defend really well, with a lot of resilience, but it's not consistent enough. Whereas offensively, Leeds have been very, very consistent. So maybe Warrington show up defensively this week, but based on evidence so far, Leeds have shown that they could probably overcome a shaky Warrington defence. And the final thing, just the forward pack. To kind of wrap things up, the Leeds forward pack versus Warrington over the course of 80 minutes, I think is just going to be too much, unfortunately. I'd love Warrington to get back to winning ways in Super League, start working up the ladder. But Leeds right now, so reliable, creative offensively, so strong defensively. And they've been in a lot of high-pressure situations. Maybe there's a bit of a hangover from Wembley for Warrington. Maybe. I think it could be a tough one for Leeds, though, because I think Warrington will try and at least respond from the loss in the Challenge Cup, but Leeds, over 80 minutes, I think have just got this one. So I'm going to go with Leeds Rhinos 24, Warrington Wolves 18. Next up, we have what might be the game of the round. Wakefield versus Leigh. These sides have played twice already, in the Challenge Cup and in Super League. Leigh has taken one, Wakefield's taken one. This is going to be interesting. The way these sides are built, both have strong forward packs, both are quick offensively, both are fairly solid defensively, and both have had to make a lot of changes to their side. I think Leigh more so with the spine, a little bit with the back line, slightly with the forward pack, but Wakefield, a lot of changes to the spine, quite a few changes to the back line, and a fair bit to the forward pack as well. So there's been a lot of rotation for both. But I think, for one, Wakefield's had to deal with more changes. And two, I think Wakefield's done a better job in adapting to those changes. So, not knowing exactly who's going to be available, I think on paper and based on evidence already, Wakefield have shown that they can adapt to the changes better than Leigh can. In my opinion, at least, anyway. Also, I do think that Wakefield have looked a little stronger with their carries through the middle as of late. I mean, they already looked pretty strong through the middle, but over the last few weeks, they look like a different team. I think Leigh recently as well, I think they've taken a big step up from the production with their forward pack, but Wakefield, I think, have shown more promising signs, especially with Vartilli as well. New contract for him as well, pretty sure. Few weeks ago, he's been fantastic for Wakefield recently. And the rest of the forward pack for Wakefield, I think they've been performing better, and I give them the edge in that department. And I think also another thing, the speed that Wakefield play with, I think is on a slightly different level right now as well. And some of the opportunities that Wakefield's creating through the middle of the field could come as a bit of a surprise for Leigh. Because Leigh, they do like to shift across. They can really put bodies across and get players into touch. But Wakefield are kind of showing that they can create opportunities through the middle of the park. So I think they might find a few. And the support players there from Wakefield, getting in support, finishing off fairly long-range tries as well. So I think that's another area that kind of leans towards Wakefield in their favour. Now, for Leigh, whether Armstrong or Hodgson is playing at fullback, I think they've been lacking a little bit of sting offensively, whether it's one of those two. And I think without O'Brien as well, they've lacked a little bit of sting. Lamb has looked okay, a little bit less comfortable without O'Brien. But overall, I think based on consistency, I think based on recent performances, and also home advantage, the DIY kitchen stadium is becoming a bit of a fortress for Wakefield. They're not untouchable there, but it's becoming a decent place to play for Wakefield. So with those factors in mind, I'm going to go with Wakefield Trinity 22, Leigh Leopards 16. Finally for this week, we have the Salford Red Devils taking on St Helens. Now, unfortunately, I'm not sure what team Salford are going to be able to put out. I do think it'll be relatively strong compared to the strongest Salford squads that we've seen this year. I think it'll be relatively strong, fairly similar possibly to what we saw last time out, and fairly similar to the week before that as well. So fairly strong. Saints will also want to right the wrongs of their performance last time out against the Robins. Nowhere near good enough offensively, nowhere near good enough defensively. Very evident by the scoreline. But they have a, much easier opponent this week with Salford. Now, one major positive for Salford. Now, 4 teams are getting the week off. I think in terms of the potential improvements that could be made from the week off, I think Salford get the biggest potential improvements. Hopefully knowing what team they'll be able to have available. So that's one. If they knew what team they'd be able to produce for this game, then there's more time to prepare, more time to build cohesion, more time to plan offensively what they want to do. Hopefully, with a somewhat decent look inside on paper, they will have more of a plan. They will have more time to prepare, look at exactly what St Helens want to do, how they go about their business, and be able to prep for it. So the week off could be a massive help for Salford, but I'm still expecting St Helens to be significantly stronger in the forward pack, and they've got a lot more speed on the edges. Even if there's a lot of first team players for Salford, you've still got a handful of the kids in there as well that just aren't quite up to speed with the game. Yes, they've had a lot of experience at this point, or a decent amount of experience, but they're still a little bit of a way off the kind of speed, strength, and just the level overall, the knowledge, the understanding of the game. So Saints are stronger, bigger, faster, smarter, I suppose, right now. Now, there have been some games where Salford, I think they've done a good job at the start of games to keep teams out for long periods. Maybe sometimes they've conceded early, but in like the first 20 minutes, first half an hour, they've actually done a good job to restrict the points. They'll just get into the back and forth grind. Yes, maybe they'll lose out in the middle, allowing a lot of quick play of the balls or offloads. Maybe they can't make many meters themselves. It's easy for the opposition to make post-contact meters as well. So they'll lose the battle in the middle. But on their own goal line, defensively, they've done a really good job of restricting points early on in games, which can frustrate teams. And Saints do feel like a team this year that can get frustrated. Offensively, they have looked a little bit more clear with the change that they made with their spine. So maybe there's less chance of them getting frustrated, but I think there's an element in there. If Salford can just make the first 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes a rough one for Saints, you never know. By half time, maybe Salford have a lead. You never know. It depends what team they can put out, obviously. But Saints should just be too strong through the middle. But I hope we keep seeing improvements from the young lads for Salford, continuing to improve their game, have positive performances, and just Salford as a whole. Hopefully we can continue seeing just positive moments, whether it's a try, whether it's a spark, dragging a player into touch, whether it be knocking someone on the backside, whether it just be just a moment of brilliance here and there, something to just keep the fans lifted and to kind of show the players that the hard work they're putting in on a week-to-week basis, it's not all for nothing. They might not be getting the results, but just little positive moments here and there would be a good start, really, on a week-to-week basis. But yeah, Saints should be too strong in this one. So yeah, I'm going to go with Salford Red Devils 6, St Helens 38. But that is going to be it for this video. If you have your own predictions, let me know in the comment section down below. But as always, if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like. It does help to get the video out there to more people. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more Kinetic Rugby League content. And if you'd like to become a member, you can do by clicking the join button below this video and joining for as little as £1 per month. Well, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.